What are the greatest exercises of all time? You might have your picks, I have mine. I'm gonna let you debate me. Today I'm gonna show you the 20 greatest exercises of all time, not just why they're great, but also the ways for you to help make them great by giving you the best tips for each one. Let's start breaking them down, guys, one by one.
All right, guys, welcome to the Massive Iron channel. In this video, I'm going to kind of react to Jeff Cavalier's top 20 exercises of all time. And at the end, I'm going to show you mine. I thought this would be a good way of kind of looking at one fitness influencer's top 20 exercises and then comparing them to mine. This isn't a dig at Jeff. This is simply just a reaction video to see what he believes are the top 20 exercises and what I believe are a quality group of 20 exercises for hypertrophy. So, just as a caveat, Jeff doesn't specifically say what the top 20 exercises are for. Strength, muscle, just things he likes for, prehab, rehab, or whatever. He just lists them as his top 20 and says, let's go, let's debate. So, hey, let's do it. I'm going to take up the challenge. Let's roll.
What are the greatest exercises of all time? You might have your picks, I have mine. I'm gonna let you debate me. Today I'm gonna show you the 20 greatest exercises of all time, not just why they're great, but also the ways for you to help make them great by giving you the best tips for each one. Let's start breaking them down, guys, one by one.
All right, so I'm not going to roll his whole entire video, and we're not going to look at all the reasons and all the applications and how he performs them and so on and so forth. We don't have time. So let's get rolling into his top 20. And again, at the end, I'm going to present my top 20.
And it starts right here with the king of all lower body exercises. It's the squat.
All right. Can't argue with that. Hey, it's the squat, right? So the squat deserves a spot in the top 20. I'm not going to argue with that.
There's no better exercise for the biceps than a basic curl. And I don't really care if you do it with a straight bar or an easy bar, but what I do care about is maybe upping the weight a little bit and turning it into a
cheat curl. I didn't expect this one. I didn't expect Jeff to whip out the old cheat curl. I have nothing against a cheat curl. I'm going to talk about my bicep exercises at the end. I believe in an easy bar curl or a barbell curl is fine. Barbell curl is fine if it treats your joints okay. It can be a little bit, I don't know, it can be a little bit brutal, like on the wrists and the elbows at time. I have nothing against cheat reps. I don't necessarily count the cheat reps. We want to do kind of good controlled reps, and at the end, if you want to toss in a little bit of cheatiness to get a little extra stress on the bicep.
Cheat curl, because the cheat curl has its own benefits.
All right, let's look at number 3 here.
Of course, when it comes to the pressing exercises, you got to go with some version of a bench press. For me, it's the dumbbell bench press because...
Yeah, man, I'm all in. He's about to say something here, and I watched this before, but I'm all in with the dumbbell bench. It's one of my favorite exercises, probably my favorite chest exercise of all time. Not to say I don't love the barbell bench, but I just feel that I get a lot of chest soreness from the dumbbell bench, and it's just my personal favorite.
For someone that already has shoulder issues, it's a lot more forgiving, and you might feel the same. However, don't forget to use your whole body when you do the lift. You got to use leg drive here, just like you would with a barbell variation.
Jeff, you do not need to use leg drive. This is something I've been discussing a lot lately. You do not need leg drive on bench. You do not need leg drive on dumbbell bench. Just flush that whole concept down the toilet. Let's not let this ruin Jeff's choice, but you do not need leg drive for hypertrophy bench. All right, let's see what we got next.
No list of the 20 greatest exercises of all time is going to not include the pull-up. However, I would ask you to stop focusing on repetitions and instead add some weight.
Yeah, that's fair. I mean, to be honest here, the issue with the pull-up is that when you're coaching in the real world, and this isn't a dig on Jeff, but when you're coaching in the real world, probably 85 to 90% of your clients can't do more than 5 to 6 quality pull-ups. We're talking nice controlled pull-ups where you're getting full extension. So This is a challenging lift to begin with, and it's not a lift that a lot of you are going to be able to do. But the guys that are able to do it tend to be able to knock out reps pretty easily. One of the issues we get into, though, with the weighted pull-up is that people tend to ego lift and just overload right away instead of trying to be reasonable with their progressive overload. So if you use a weighted pull-up, just do so reasonably.
And so if the squat is the king of the lower body exercise, then the prince has to be the barbell reverse lunge.
Now, I didn't see this one coming. He's calling this the prince of lower body exercises. So squats are the king, and the dumbbell or barbell reverse lunge is the prince. I have no issue with this exercise. It's a good quality exercise
for me, because we introduce some different planes of motion, releasing stability.
Exercise you should consider.
Now, when it comes to the big bang for your buck exercises, there's none better than the deadlift.
Right, deadlifts. Obviously, one of the top lifts. I was a little bit nervous about watching his tutorial on the deadlift. I watched it. I'm not going to share it here. It's not bad, but we're going to kind of gloss over.
However, if you do the exercise, you got to get a few things right.
The hex bar deadlift are obviously good choices.
When it comes to shoulder exercises, you got to have some variation of a lateral raise if you want to build up that middle delt.
Now, the cable lateral raise, it's an all right exercise. Top 20. No, not in my world. I mean, don't think just because I'm not putting it in the top 20 that I'm being dismissive of the exercise. It's a fine exercise, just like dumbbell laterals. At the end, I'm going to talk about my variation, the bulldozer lateral little bit, but I would put my dumbbell variation, a bulldozer lateral, in the top 20 instead.
You're going to see quite a few pulling exercises on my list because I don't think we do enough of it to counteract all that pushing we do. But one of my favorite of all time here is the one-arm high cable.
Now, this is one of Jeff's pet exercises, and while you can get a good feel on your back, it's an exercise when you start to overload that you're going to have to start to lean back more, just like the face pull. The more weight you put on, the more you're going to have to kind of lean back and brace yourself to pull. Now, there's nothing really inherently wrong with that, but the exercise kind of falls apart a little bit or gets sloppy a little bit at that point in time where you're just kind of, overloading and you're leaning back more. Of all the back exercises you could include, this is really, really low on the scale in my opinion. And I would, Jeff doesn't include a dumbbell row in this video, but the dumbbell row absolutely is seated, on a much higher level than this.
Bro.
All right, let's see what we have next.
When you want to hit the posterior chain, you got to get that hip through full extension. One of the best ways to do this, especially with heavier weights, to get that overload you need, is with a barbell hip thrust.
Yeah, we got to get the hip thrust, and not one of my top 20. I'm not being dismissive of the exercise. If my clients like to do it, that's great. I don't believe it to be a top 20 exercise. It's a fine exercise to add in if you enjoy it and you have time, but definitely not an exercise I would consider a top 20.
And so barbell curls are not the only bicep exercise that makes my list of 20. If you want to hit that long head outer portion of the biceps best, you're going to want to do a weighted curl. Now, don't let the opinion of an uninformed, inexperienced trainer or somebody with an agenda try to discourage you from doing the exercise. Instead, learn how to do it and do it right.
Jeff, nice slap. Jeff's just kind of slapping back at people that don't like the exercise. Like they're either an uninformed trainer or they have an agenda. I do have an agenda. I think there's about 20 exercises that are better than this. I think you could do a pinwheel curl where you can kind of lean in a little bit and get a really good contraction. I think you could do a hammer curl. I don't know. Is this a bad exercise? Probably not. But what it does is it makes you like, first off, you got to turn your wrists in like this, right? I mean, it puts you in an awkward position. Maybe if you're Jeff Cavalier, small and lean, it's not a big deal, and that's not a dig. But like, you got to get in this weird position, like, may I serve you some wine, sir? Right? Like, fine, sir. Right? Come on now. I mean, it's just an awkward position to be in. I'm sure you can overload it fine. I just don't think it's a great exercise. It's certainly.
Matter of fact, we've actually talked about why this exercise is so great in its own video. I'll make sure I link that for you at the end.
He looks great doing it. I'll give him that.
Yes, ab exercises belong in the top 20 also, but only if you're doing the ones that allow for overload, because
All right, good point. I mean, if you're going to do an ab exercise, if you're going to have it in your top 20, you definitely need something you can overload, right? You need something that will create stress. I have an exercise that I've included, and we'll look at that at the end. It's not specifically an overload exercise, but I think if you're going to put an ab exercise in, the exercise that I've included is essential in kind of establishing, do I have a reasonable amount of core strength?
Our abs are muscles too, and they can be developed. We're talking about the hanging leg raise. But what's key is,
all right, see what we got next.
When it comes to triceps, my favorite exercise is always going to be the lying tricep extension.
Yeah, there's nothing wrong with this exercise. I have a variation called skull destroyers, which I'm going to show you in my list at the end. I like doing skull destroyers. I think it's a far better, more intense variation of the lying tricep extension.
So other people's list of the greatest exercises of all time may overlook.
Now this one cracks me up a little bit. Okay, I have nothing against the glute ham raise, but even the guy in the background's kind of giving the CDI a little bit. Like, what are you guys doing? And plus, your socks are pulled up over your ankles. Too bad he doesn't have white socks, right? But putting a dumbbell between your legs and kind of trying to do glute hams, I don't think that's a top 20 exercise. At least this variation.
Some of the smaller exercises, but not here, because I understand the value of a good corrective. And we're talking about the reverse hyperextension. Here we want to make sure we're getting good glute contraction. And let's face it, we oftentimes don't get enough of that.
Yeah, well, it's probably an okay exercise. I have nothing against it. I'm probably never going to go into the gym and try to set this up because it's just kind of an awkward movement to set up, putting a dumbbell between your legs. And I'm not sure Jeff specifically is advocating the dumbbell variation of the glute ham. It could be that the gym he's in simply doesn't have a glute ham raise, which a lot of gyms don't. And that's part of the issue with this movement and part of the reason why I do not include it in my top 20.
And so now we're into the comment leaving portion of the video, because my list of 20 greatest exercises is actually going to have a dumbbell pullover on it.
I'm not sure what he means by the comment leaving section of his video, but dumbbell pullovers are dumbbell pullovers. They're okay. They're not bad. Do I consider them a great movement for mass? I don't know. They had a lot of hype back in the day. Do I consider them even a top 40, top 50 movement for mass? Not really. If you like them and they're, when it comes to programming, you can put in pet exercises. This is something I've discussed many, many times. The last 20% of your exercises can be pet exercises. If you find value in this exercise, by all means, let it rip. But do I believe it's a top 50 hypertrophy exercise? No, I really do not. It's just not.
I mean, come on. Any list of the 20 greatest exercises of all time, for me, is going to have my face pull on it. And
wow, I didn't see this one coming, right? The face pull is probably one of my least favorite exercises. And probably when I mentioned that, it's an exercise that, we get a lot of, it ruffles feathers when I tell people I don't like the exercise. Look, 90% of your rear delt work, your rear delt size is going to be developed by doing your rows, just getting in good quality vertical and horizontal rows, pull-ups, lat pull-downs, seated cable rows, machine rows, dumbbell rows, barbell rows, penalty rows, Yates rows, all that stuff. That's really going to be the meat and potatoes for your rear delt development. And I know Jeff uses the face pulls for other reasons, but I just see so many people tossing these into hypertrophy routines when they really, look, they're not going to eat a lot of time. If you enjoy them, go ahead and do them, so on and so forth. But if you want rear delt work and you're putting these in for rear delt work, there are far better choices.
I will fight that one to the death.
In my opinion, and I will fight you, Jeff. Let's go. Put up your dude.
When it comes to vertical pressing exercises, I always prefer to have you on your feet. But I also like to get a little bit of momentum because I can drive more weight up overhead, creating more overload. And for me, it's with the push press. But when you push, make sure you do it right. A lot of people just go like this, and they dip at their knees, and then they try to push.
Okay, well, there's nothing wrong with the push press. I think dumbbell push press is going to be a little bit more problematic. If you're going to do a single arm press in the gym, what I would probably do is start with a seated arm double press, and then when the weight gets too heavy, to kind of clean them up. You want to kind of move to a single arm overhead press, probably standing. Seated feels awkward. And that's probably your best variation, the single arm. I wouldn't advocate the double arm at all. Push press, I have nothing against it. It's definitely, if you like it, you need an overhead press variation in your routine with a barbell. So if that's a variation you like, fine. Overhead pressing, standing overhead pressing or military pressing is going to put a lot of stress, generally has a tendency to put a lot of stress on your lower back. So if this exercise variation helps relieve some of that stress, it's absolutely fine.
Again, not all exercises are big exercises, but they certainly are largely important in terms of putting together a great comprehensive program. And for me, one of the smaller exercises you need to do is some form of external rotation.
All right, so what do you say about something like this? I mean, you want to do some rehabby work, it's probably fine if that's your thing. I have nothing against it, but this is not a top 20 exercise. It's not a top 20 strength exercise. It's not a top 20 muscle exercise. It's not even, not even exercise that you would really consider other than for a warm up or rehab protocol. So,
and so I mentioned my love of pulling exercises. One of my favorite is.
Wait, what are we doing? We got some chicken flapping going on. Let's rewind and check this out.
And so I mentioned my love of pulling exercises. One of my favorite is a high pull because we can shift the focus a little bit to.
All right, so it's how do I say this politely? Sometimes, everybody has their 5% blind spot, and sometimes Jeff does some really wacky things, and this is a little bit wacky.
The upper back, still hitting the delts, but more of that upper back and traps.
I mean, he's trying to combine some sort of a face pulley trap thing with a high pull. High pull, if you're doing it for shoulders, you're going to be driving your elbows up and you're going to be kind of moving in this plane. But he's kind of moving like, I don't know. It's almost like external shoulder rotation. It's really weird to me. This is definitely not a top 20 exercise. All right, what do we got? We got a few left.
The dumbbell bench press is not enough when we're talking about building up your chest, because one of the main functions we have to hit is adduction, crossing those arms over midline in order to fully activate the chest.
No, I don't care how much you're activating the chest. The cable crossover is one of the worst exercises you can do for hypertrophy, and this is going to cause hey, I've done them over the years. This is going to ruffle a few feathers and cause a few comments to be left. But cable crossovers, can you feel the chest? Yes. Is there an opportunity for progressive overload? Not really. Okay. So you might have the perfect cable crossover system where you can progress from 20s on up to 150s. But most cable crossover systems, because of the leverages, make it hard to progress. You're not going to progress that much. When it comes to chest isolation exercises, in my opinion, this is the bottom of the barrel. Can you use it as a finisher? Yes. Can you use it as a rest pause as a finisher? Yes. You can do some creative stuff to use it as a finisher, but there's just simply not a lot of room for progression. I was actually talking to a female client about this exercise yesterday, and for women, it's even more problematic because women might be able to do 10 pounds on the cable crossover, but the jump to 20 is going to double the weight. I remember when I worked at Tiger Fitness, I would try these with the 20s, and moving up to 30s, my reps would drop in half, and 40s, there was no prayer. The problem with this exercise is there's not a lot of opportunity for progression in most gyms. If you have a gym where you can actually progress on this exercise, great. But it is certainly probably the weakest chest isolation exercise overall, the weakest choice, and definitely doesn't belong anywhere near the top 20. So I think we have one more left.
One of my favorite pulling exercises on my list is the dead row. It's just a little bit more explosive.
Like the chicken variation of the dumbbell high pull. Is he trying to do a pendlay row here?
And a little bit more weight, and it ties the movement together into a more total body exercise more effectively. One of the greatest exercises.
Whoops, he's kind of doing a half pendlay row there. Sorry. It was just a really awkward movement. I don't know. I, I don't really know what to say. If you're trying to do a penalty row, great. This is the only time I've ever seen this kind of chicken dead row lift. And if somebody does it, I don't mean any offense. But if this is your thing, right, you probably should just be doing a penalty row. I got to look at this again. It's so silly. All right. All right. So that's it. That's Jeff's top 20. And I'm going to show you, mine. Here we have a list of Jeff's top 20 there in the white, and my responses are in the yellow. Now, obviously, anybody's top 20 is, there's going to be room for discussion. These are simply my favorite. I wouldn't say favorite. It's a close call at the end. Let's be real here, right? There's no lock-ins for top 20. But what I did was look at his and then share mine. The red ones are ones I think, are just kind of wacky, wackadoo a little bit. External rotations, one arm high cable rows, cable crossovers we just went over, and the dumbbell waiter curl. Would you like some cheese and wine, sir? Right? No, I do not. So squats, again, the white is his, the yellow is mine. Squats, yeah, squats is good. Reverse lunges, that's fine, but more and more I am really becoming a super fan. If we're talking pure exercises, not necessarily access to be able to do the exercise, the leverage squat, which I have a machine in my home gym, is absolutely hands down my favorite lift beyond squats for legs. I think every gym should have a leverage squat or a variation that's very similar. You can go deep more naturally. You can really hit the quads. It's a top-notch exercise. I have nothing against reverse lunges. I just don't think they're a top 20. Hip thrust, same thing. Fine exercise. I don't believe it's top 20. If you're looking for overall lower body, legs, and glutes and hips and all that kind of stuff, leg press or hack squat, depending on which variation you like. Now, reverse hypers, not every gym has a reverse hypers. So what I tend to advocate, probably my favorite hamstring exercise, leg curl's okay, but it feels really weird. The problem with an RDL is it's not taught correctly generally, and you have a lot of people doing a bad RDL out there that are unaware because there's a lot of naive coaches that don't know how to, teach it properly. In my opinion, the best hamstring exercise for the general population is a glute ham raise on a back extension machine. Most gyms have a back extension station, and what you can do is you can come up, and then from this position, you can kind of pop up on your knees and do kind of a leg curl. It's a really, convenient exercise if you have a back extension in your gym. You can load it. You can overload it by holding a dumbbell or a plate, and most men and women can do this exercise. Now, the barbell cheat curl, I wouldn't list the cheat curl as the top 20, but an easy barbell curl variation, definitely. A waiter's curl, not. Probably if you're going to do a dumbbell curl, the incline dumbbell curl is arguably right at the top of the list. You can get a good stretch, you can get a really good feel, and it hands down nut punches dumbbell waiter curl. Dumbbell bench, I love the dumbbell bench, absolutely. Cable crossover, toss that out the window. Barbell bench has to be in the top 20. I'm sorry, not sorry. So, deadlifts. Let's look at back stuff. Yeah, deadlifts or hex bar deadlifts. If you're not going to be competing in powerlifting and you're just an average, gym rat and you want to save your lower back a little bit, the hex bar variation is good as well. Weighted pull-ups, you can't argue with that. The one arm high cable row, dumbbell row all the way. Let's go. And the dead row or whatever, the flailing chicken row or whatever they were doing. If you're going to put a row in like that, it has to be the pendley row. So cable laterals, a fine exercise, not a top 20. I would toss in the seated dumbbell overhead press as a variation. You need a shoulder exercise in there, a dumbbell shoulder exercise, I'd toss that in. Push press, probably my favorite for any barbell is going to be the seated BTN. This is something I did for 20 years. It's not going to feel great for a lot of you, and I'm not telling you everybody has to do this exercise. But if we're talking about a top 20 best shoulder exercise or a shoulder exercise that fits in the top 20, a seated BTN has to be right at the top of the list. The dumbbell flailing, flapping, external shoulder rotation, high pull they were doing, I don't know what they're doing. But if you're going to go that route, you have to include power shrugs. I like having power shrugs in my top 20. So I mentioned ab exercises. Now, I'm not against stuff. Obviously, you want stuff that you can overload. And the hanging leg raise, hanging knee raise, whatever, it's a fine exercise. But I would put in, if I'm going to put any ab exercise in my top 20, it's going to be the ab wheel rollout. I want to see you be able to do 2 to 3 sets of 15 easily, and then you probably have enough core strength and stability to move on from there. Now, the lying tricep extensions, I have a variation called Skull Destroyers, and you can search them on this channel. It's basically 2 to 3 reps of an extension, then 2 to 3 reps of a close grip bench, and you keep alternating rest pause style. This is going to absolutely destroy your triceps. This is a brilliant exercise. Nearly everybody I give it to loves this exercise, and you will immediately you can overload it. You can hammer your triceps. You can get it has the best of everything. You can get a good pump. Dumbbell pullover, again, not even a top 40 or 50 exercise. I kind of threw in a random exercise here, something I asked myself, what fits in the top 20? Had to be close grip bench. I love close grip bench, and it's just one of those exercises I feel you should probably get strong at. Face pulls, I have an exercise I call the bulldozer lateral. You can search that on this channel. You start with your hand on the off knee and you drive it up. It's kind of like drawing a sword. There's more leverage with the bulldozer lateral, so it's going to treat your shoulder joint a little bit more. It's going to be a little bit more user-friendly. There's going to be more of an opportunity for progressive overload on the bulldozer lateral. It's not a rear delt exercise, but I was just trying to fit in exercises into my top 20, and it just kind of fit. Now, Jeff's external shoulder rotation exercise, the only other exercise I could think that would probably be best to slot into the top 20 for most people would be the dip. So there you have it, guys. Let me know what you think. Which exercises of Jeff's do you think don't belong? Which exercises of mine do you think are crazy? And did we leave any exercises out? Be curious to see what you have to say. Drop a comment down below. So, guys, hope this video has been of some help. If you have any questions or comments, drop them down below. If you made it this far in this video and have yet to subscribe to my channel, please do. I'd appreciate the support. So, guys, as always, thanks for watching. Have a great day.